I am so glad we're out here at Oak Hollow Park because this is really capturing what we've been talking about all month about getting it right. As a church, when we get it right, we are an outward facing church and we're connecting people to Jesus. When you take this out into the world, into your world, like into your family, into your school, into your workplace, you watch Jesus begin to do some amazing things. He changes lives, he heals families, he impacts culture, and he shapes nations. And this is what made the early church so amazing. This is what they did. Like even when they were faced with the world's most powerful emperors and armies trying to snuff them out, they couldn't do it. The church kept growing and thriving. And they did that because they followed Jesus' command to make disciples. And the command he gave them back then is the exact same command he gives us today. And here's why. People need Jesus today as much as they did back then. People want Jesus today. And you might be thinking, man, the people I know don't want Jesus. They do, they just don't know it. They want what Jesus brought. They need what Jesus taught, even if they don't know who Jesus is. People want to live in a world where love reigns. They want relationships that work. They want friends that can be trusted. They want families that forgive. They want bosses that are fair. They want to know that they're part of something bigger than just right here and right now, that their lives have more meaning than that. And this is exactly what Jesus taught. So when you think about your friends who need Jesus, even if they don't know Jesus, you get to make the connection for them to Jesus. That's why it's so great that we're out here. Church is not about stuffy people being stuffed in a building. We need to be outward facing, outward growing, outward going, outward showing, outward telling. That's how we connect people to Jesus. Everyone, everywhere, every day. And here's your role in this. Each one, reach one. Every one of us knows people who need to know Jesus. So go find a person or go find a friend or go find a family that needs to know Jesus and make the ask. So ladies, dial up your friend and make the ask. Guys, cowboy up and make the ask. If there are 4 people in your family, that's 4 asks. Like mom, dad, and both kids. Make the ask. Each one, reach one. Statistics show us that 83% of people who are in church because someone asked them. In fact, if you're in the church right now, you're here because someone invited you either in person or online. And also, statistics tell us that 81% of people who don't go to church would either go to church or consider going to church if they were asked by someone they knew. You just have to make the ask. So let us help you with this. I'm going to go borrow something from North Point Church in Georgia. They've been teaching their people this for years, and it works. They call it the 3 knots. N-O-T-S, 3 knots. Like these are triggers. When you hear someone say one of these knots, then it should trigger you with the response, you should come to my church. You make the ask. So here's the first knot. Number 1, not in church. When someone says, yeah, we just moved here, a few months ago, we don't have a church home yet. Or we used to go to church, but we don't anymore. Or, I've never even been in church. When you hear that not in church, you make the ask. You should come to my church. Here's the second knot. Not going well. Not going well. Like when someone says, my job is a dead end, and I'm not sure what I should do with it. Or my life's a mess. I'm not sure where I should go with it. Or I just can't break free from. When you hear that knot, like things are not going well, you make the ask. You should come to my church. Here's a third knot. Not prepared for. You hear this from people. I never knew marriage could be so lonely. Or who knew? Like raising kids could be so hard. Or I really thought she was the one. When you hear that life's not going the way they wanted it to, they're not prepared for what's coming into their lives, you make the ask. You should come to my church. But you can't simply leave it at that. You can't just give directions and hope people are going to show up. Because if that's all you do, people are not going to show up at your church. Like have you ever tried to give directions to anybody, to our church, to Grace Collective? Like, well, you should like take this road. No, from where you're coming, you should probably go around this way. It's hard to find our church. But when Jesus gives you property, you take it. So here's what happened to me. The other day, my neighbor had a couple young guys cutting down a tree in his yard. So I went over and started having a conversation with them. And in the midst of the conversation, I made the ask, you should come to my church. And the one guy said, where is it? I said, do you know where Brush Creek Road is? He said, no. Do you know where Manor Police Station is? He said, no. Do you know where like Manor Park is? No. And at that point, like he veered way off in a different direction because he was lost, and this was obviously a lost cause. So you got to be more intentional than just saying, hey, come to my church. So here's how you can be more intentional. This would work better. Well, you know where Sheets is on Route 30. I'll meet you there at 10:15. Why 10:15? Because by the time they pull up and you get out and you talk and convince them, don't buy coffee here, get free coffee at the church, and then you get back in your cars, and they follow you to the church, and you walk in, they get loved on by the hospitality team, and they check in their kids, or you take them to the cafe. Listen, you can even offer to buy them coffee at the cafe. Don't tell them it's free. Just look good in their eyes, right? And then they're there, and you're ready for church as we start worship at our new time of 10:45. Or maybe they live close to you, and you're not going to meet them at Sheets. You're going to pick them up at their house. Hey, I'll pick you up. And they want to go to the early church service. So, hey, I'll pick you up at 8:30 so that you can go through all those same things and be there at our new early time at 9 o'clock. Or maybe they already know where the building is. Maybe they say, oh, I drive by your church like every other day. I know where it is. Well, great. I'm going to meet you at the front door. And you're there 15 minutes before worship starts. It gives them time to come in, get their iced coffee. And then you say, hey, come sit with me, so you never leave them alone. So the bottom line is, when you connect people to Grace Collective, you're connecting people to Jesus. So who do you know that needs to know Jesus? When you connect them to him, he's going to start working and changing their lives. But you've got to make the ask. Each one, reach one.